If you want 2026 to feel different to every other year you've had with money, you have to do something different now. And that's exactly what this video is about. These last few weeks of the year are one of your biggest opportunities to reset your finances, but most people waste them. They're tired, distracted, and they tell themselves, I'll start again in January. Sound familiar? So today I want to walk through the 10 money moves I'm making before 2026. But in this video, I really want to cover the stuff that is actually going to move the needle and make a difference to your finances in 2026. First up, do an audit. I'm not talking about getting an accountant round, getting a green visor and cracking out the abacus to pore over spreadsheets for days on end. Just taking a look at what you really, and I mean really, spend your money on. And this can be a really revealing thing to do. Because the truth is, every single person thinks they know where their money went this year until you actually look, until you actually see the cold hard numbers in front of you. So here's what you do. Open your banking app, download your spending for the year and sort it into categories. Now we should point out, there are a few ways you can do this, but if this is the first time that you're doing this, then broadly you can split into your needs, your wants, your saving and investing. And the magic numbers that you're aiming for here is 50% of your after-tax income on your needs, 30% on your wants, and 20% on your saving and investing. These numbers are very rough, but it just gives you an idea to help line up with where you are versus where you should be. But if this is not your first rodeo and you've done this before, or you feel as though your finances need a little more TLC, then you can instead be more specific. Things like mortgage, rent, car payments, loan payments, grocery bills, utilities, nights out, however you want to do it, however you think you might have problems when it comes to your spending. This is always an eye-opener, and I've done this for years, and it does still surprise me. But usually, two things happen here. You realise you overspent in places you didn't expect, and second, maybe you realise you underspent in places you thought were huge problems. This is really where the whole cancelling your Netflix and giving up your daily coffee, you can actually see it's not maybe a massive problem. I just want to be really, really clear. This is not about you flogging yourself because you spent more than you thought on coffee, avocado or toast or cancelling your Netflix. This is about clearly understanding where your money goes. Second, list your money regrets and your money wins. So once you've done your audit, you've got all your data, you've got all your information, sit down and list out two things, your money regrets and your money wins. Just to give you some examples, your money regrets might be the purchases you didn't need, the subscriptions you just forgot about, the times you spent money to feel better, the gym membership you never used, the financial decisions that made your life harder. And then your money wins might be things like smart purchases that actually gave you a return or saved you time, the times you said no to purchasing something, the investments that you stuck with, the debt you paid above the minimum payments, and the money habits that you actually maintained. I would generally encourage you to not be too prescriptive about what your money wins and what your money regrets are, just kind of what feels about right to you, because this is a very personal way of looking at your money. But the main point of this whole process is it really allows you to take stock of the things you're doing well in and the things you maybe need to tighten up on. If overspending in February completely derails the rest of your financial year, then you need to know. Number 3, decide what your priorities are going to be. Now you understand what actually happened with your money this year and how you feel about it. The next question is, what actually matters next year? Not money goals, we'll get onto that a bit later, priorities. And I get, this is something you won't hear most other personal finance creators say, but there is more to life than money. And it's true. In my view, money is the means, not the end, and so your money goals should reflect that. My eldest has just started school, and so we went on days out to zoos, aquariums, I took some time off work, we went for a weekend away. I'm never going to get this time back before he starts school, so I wanted to make the most of it whilst I had it. And it's as simple as that. Your goals might be fixing your car, starting therapy, saving for a Christmas trip, paying down debt, spending more time with your family. Your priorities tell you what your money is going to do for you. And this is something I picked up from one of my personal favourite books on money ever. It's this one, I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. This isn't sponsored or anything, but if you really want to start your new year off on the right money foot, I think this is the best book to start with, hands down. The book really points out that leading a rich life is very much dependent on you, and you should build your finances around that. And in my view, this might be the most important step in the whole video, because priorities determine everything. Your budget, your habits, your goals, your daily decisions, your 2026 priorities guide every decision from here on. And that leads us nicely onto our next point. Number 4 on the list, decide what your money goals are. So now we've worked out what your life priorities are going to be, we can use that to turn them into money goals. Priorities are what matters, goals are what success actually looks like. And I know it seems trivial to say, but it's why the step before this one is so important. Just here's an example. If you're trying to save money and you decide not to go out on a Friday night, it shouldn't feel like deprivation. It should feel like progress towards maybe a money-saving goal, like saving for a holiday or hitting a certain investment goal. So here's the thing. Start making sure that your money decisions and your money goals line up with one another. You don't want these two to be working in opposite directions to one another. If one of your goals is to go on a family holiday, but the other is to save for a house, then that's going to be like running a marathon in flip-flops. Goals turn your priorities into numbers you can actually track and plan for. Clear goals will give you direction. They really allow you to measure your progress, and they make the next step so incredibly important. Number 5 on the list, automate your finances. Once you know what your goals are, automate them. This is personally for me one of the biggest lessons I've learned after having worked in finance for over 15 years. If you try and save what's left at the end of the month, you'll never have anything left. Your saving and investing has to happen first, so just treat it like any other bill. Now, would you be surprised if I told you this? Research from Ohio State University found that only 9% of Americans who make New Year's resolutions successfully achieve them. 23% abandon their resolutions by the end of the first week, and 43% by the end of January. So here's basically what I'm trying to say. That relying on financial willpower or your memory to try and achieve your money goals is a high-risk strategy, and the evidence backs this up. So the best way to get around this is to automate your finances. And you can level this up in all sorts of ways. Maybe the day you get paid, you have an automated deposit into a savings and investing account. So just so you never even see the money to spend it. And there is even more empirical research on this one too. A study by Vanguard found that automatic contributions are one of the biggest factors when it comes to growing wealth over time. And I've always loved this idea from James Clear's book, Atomic Habits. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And I think this in the money world is spot on. Number 6 on the list, find out what you need to renew. Now, I do want to keep this one kind of brief. It is pretty simple, but it is still very, very, very often overlooked. So every single year, people waste hundreds, sometimes thousands, because they let contracts roll over. I'm thinking car insurance, home insurance, phone, broadband, whatever. So here's what you do. Make a list of all these deals that are going to expire and mark it in your calendar. And the reason why might kind of surprise you, because it certainly surprised me. And take a look at this from the legends at Money Saving Expert when talking about car insurance. The cheapest time to get quotes is 20 to 27 days ahead of your renewal date. Cover becomes more expensive the closer you get. We analysed over 1 million quotes from Money Supermarket between January and April 2024 and found the average quote made on the day of renewal was £2,277, while it was £906 when bought 26 days earlier. That's a huge difference of £1,371. What this means is that you can get a pretty significant discount in 2 ways. One is avoiding going onto the standard deal after your teaser rate expires. So just set your reminders in your calendar about a month before each renewal date to try and lock in these better deals. Think of renewal dates as being free money just out there waiting to be grabbed as long as you're organised. Step 7. Prepare for taxes. Now, listen, this one is obviously a pain, but let's get into it. Getting organised about your taxes before the deadline can be such a good move. Now, I get it. Taxes can be very complicated, but if you think you could be organising yourself in a way that's maybe a bit more tax efficient, then do speak to a qualified professional. But doing it now gives you some time to work on what is going to be best for you. This could be making sure you aren't going to get lumped with a big corporation tax bill if you're self-employed. It can be making sure you still get access to free childcare. It can be making sure you don't pay tax on your savings, which we did a video on just here. Doing your tax prep in December and January gives you 3 major advantages. You can adjust your budget for any potential tax bill. No surprises just means no panic. The second, you can potentially reduce your tax bill before the end of the year. This might be things like maximising your ISA allowance, pension contributions for the tax relief, claiming allowable work expenses, checking for child benefit tax charges. All of these sorts of things are best used when you've planned for them. And third, you can avoid the last-minute rush. Nothing can potentially destroy your money motivation like a stressful tax deadline. So using this opportunity to really dive into your finances ahead of the deadline can just be a really smart thing to do, and it gives you an opportunity to actually do something about it. By front-loading the work, the rest of the year feels a bit lighter. You feel a bit more in control of your finances. But as always, if you are unsure, speak to a qualified professional. And since we're talking about long-term planning, number 8, check in on your pension. Now, you might understandably think this is a weird addition on this list, but do hear me out on this one. Your pension is money that future you will rely on. And if you're like most people, the answer to, do I have enough, is, in all probability, no. In the UK, some of the stats on this are absolutely alarming. And the reason is kind of simple when you think about it. It's the number one thing that people will kick into the long grass if they feel like they need to. There's an awful lot of manana on this one. Oh, I'll take my pension seriously next year, and that just never comes. So log into your pension account and check these few things. Your current total, your projected total at retirement, your current contribution level, whether you're getting full employer matching, how your investments have done, and lastly, whether your risk level is right for your age. And maybe the most important thing you should check is your fees. It is not an exaggeration to say that this could potentially save you hundreds of thousands of pounds. And, as always, this is supported by hard evidence, like this report from Pension Profiles, which found that people pay nearly triple the investing fees than they should. Triple, saying, quote, with the average person working 11 jobs in a lifetime, keeping track of multiple pension pots can get quite confusing. Unhelpfully, pension providers often charge in different ways, which can make it hard to know exactly what you're paying and where your money is going. And here's the thing, when we are talking about what could be your biggest or your second biggest asset across your entire lifetime, and the investing time horizon is so long, these fees can quickly turn into serious money. And let's go through an example to really illustrate what I'm talking about. Just take two funds. One of them has a 1% fee, the other one has a 2% fee. Let's say you invest £100 a month from the age of 18 to retirement all the way up at 65. Let's, for argument's sake, say you have a 10% return. The difference in value of these two funds would be £221,631, a truly staggering amount of money. But let's come back to the present with something deceptively simple. Number 9, think about insurance. So do you know what can kill your wealth faster than just about anything on God's green earth? Life. Now, I really don't want to get all woo-woo hippie on you, but bad things happen in life, and without having the proper insurance in place, that can just completely wipe you out financially, or potentially leave your loved ones with a big bill to pay. Luckily, the investing world gives us insurance. Now, insurance is often viewed as an unnecessary expense, but the truth is it's a crucial component of wealth protection. And that's really because proper insurance can safeguard your finances from unexpected events that could otherwise lead to financial ruin, a real wealth killer event. And, it's not lost on me that in the realm of financial planning, insurance maybe doesn't grab headlines like the glamorous topics of saving and investing or AI booms or anything like that. But the truth is, when unexpected events threaten to derail even the most meticulously laid money plans, the importance of insurance becomes undeniable. And it becomes even more important when you have people who financially rely on you. And, your insurance arrangements should really be bespoke to you. So here's what you need to do. See what cover you already have in place, maybe through your work, and it's a pretty standard benefit offered by lots of employers. Find out what cover you already have and what cover you would ideally want and try and bridge that gap. Again, this can be really tricky, and because there are so many different kinds of insurance, I think seeking help from a professional is kind of helpful here. Decide what kind of cover you want for yourself and your loved ones and pick a policy accordingly. Last thing on the list, number 10, make a money calendar. This final move is all about what I would call your money momentum. One of the most underrated money moves you can make before the new year is creating a financial calendar. And I know it does sound like you're being very dull and overly organized, and a financial calendar is exactly what it sounds like. A really, really simple timeline of key dates. It makes sure that you're never caught out by big bills that need to be paid, or lets you track your progress as you're saving. And it will really help you do two things. Lets you plan your finances. We already talked about insurance and getting the best deal on your broadband and so on. But the second thing is it also gives you a way to track your progress of your money goals. Say you want to save £300 for your Christmas shopping, then by June you should have 150 saved up. It's a really, really easy way to track your progress. Once you have it all mapped out on your timeline, you can prepare for every big expense before it arrives rather than having to react to it afterwards and potentially going into debt. Now, I really wanted to highlight in this video that the truth is, changing your financial life is not about these huge dramatic changes, but with a series of small, consistent wins. Money is one of those areas where you don't need perfection, you just need progress. Some months will go to plan and some months just will not, and that's fine. What really matters is that you just keep showing up. If you like this video, we have 3 videos on screen I know you'll love. We have this video, tips from ISA millionaires, how to pay less tax on your savings, and how to pay less inheritance tax. You've been watching Modern Money Talk. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and let me know down in the comments, what money moves are you making before 2026? Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.